Take the roll, hang on a second, let me get my cheat sheet, let me get my list here, so.
We
John?
need to do a motion to
Motion,
appoint John
point of order,
first.
Motion to
appoint a new chair.
I'll make a motion to appoint John the chairman.
Second. Roll call.
You sure, you don't wanna take the lead?
Are you kidding?
Roll call,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, roll call, Bob Earhart,
Here.
myself, I'm here, John Goodthorpe.
No, this is to pass the motion.
Right.
Oh, yay, okay, right,
Yes.
okay, yes. Bob Earhart,
Here.
yay.
Yay.
say yes.
I say yay. John Goodthorpe.
Yes.
Carrie Ann.
Yes.
Okay. That motion passes, I'm the chairman tonight.
Hopefully.
If I make it through this, just help me out as I need help.
Well, we were doing a fine job.
Okay, so the roll call, Bob Earhart,
Yes.
John Beards, I'm here, John Goodthorpe,
Here.
Carrie Ann,
Here.
and Rachel Rockwell is absent, Rebecca Sabo is absent, and John Coy is absent. Moving on to approval of the minutes.
I make a motion, we accept them.
Second.
All right, let's take a vote on that. Bob Earhart,
Yes.
I vote yes. John Goodthorpe,
Yes.
Carrie Ann?
Yes.
It passes, the minutes are approved. We have new minutes, or new business, I'm sorry. New business, the first part is public hearing. Recommendation slash action for, public hearing number 26-002, a text amendment for Title 12-4-5-4 and 12-10-17 snowplow agreement. Do we have to provide confirmation of any notices at this point for this?
Yes, so all proper notification was made, the notice was published in the newspaper, and we've had no inquiries on the subject.
Okay. So Daniel, you want to present the background history of what we're talking about?
Right, so before you is a text amendment. What this has to do with is our snowplow agreement that is in our code. Currently, for any final plat of subdivision to be recorded, the developer, whoever has to enter into a snowplow agreement with the village. The way it is written in our code currently, there are some nuances that don't always apply to this. So we are proposing to amend the language in the code. The first part of the amendment would be to add a language that clarifies that a snowplow agreement is only needed if there are public roads. And this also allows for the village attorney to review the agreement and the village administrator to sign the agreement. The previous process was that it had to go before the village board for approval for the village president to sign. We're just kind of simplifying that step and just requiring it and allowing the administrator to be able to sign it. Also, the reason behind this is because we have final plats of subdivision for individual homeowners lots when they combine a lot, and the snowplow agreement does not apply. So this just kind of clarifies that we don't need it for those types of things. The second part of the amendment removes the exact snowplow agreement out of our village code. Currently, our village code has the entire snowplow agreement, word for word, in the code. This does not allow any changes to the language to be made whatsoever without having to go to the code and amend the code. So we are proposing to take the agreement out of the code and just allowing the attorneys to review the agreement and so we can make it more specific for each development as needed. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed text amendment.
I have one question.
Sure.
I might have missed it when I was reading it, but there's nothing in there in case of an emergency. in the sense of, when you got your subdivisions. Does the village not allow a homeowner to move in before the subdivision's accepted? And that the roads are public?
They can move in and the roads will be public, but they may not be accepted, so the developer may still be in charge of taking care of the roads. When it comes to an instance of there being an emergency, that is kind of, I don't know if it's like an unspoken agreement, if you wanna say, but the village public works will make sure that the fire department has access to get to the emergency if needed.
Well, my question is, in the snowstorm,
Mm-hmm.
where you don't need the fire department,
Mm-hmm.
but the developer has not come out to address the situation.
And that is the whole reason behind the snowplow agreement. It gives the village the leverage to have a third party come in and then bill the developer for those fees that it costs to have the roads plowed
Okay,
when they did not do it in a timely manner.
okay. Because we always had that drawn out.
Yeah, that's exactly what the snowplow agreement is, and that's what the intent of it is for when the developer is not taking care of the roads as they should.
Okay,
Before they've been accepted by the village, we have the authority, gives us the authority to go in and have.
and then, yeah, because the other ones I was gonna say, that isn't covered. Ours was a, more of an agreement of the overall unaccepted subdivision,
Mm-hmm,
and that we would have everything listed in there, just in case there's a pavement failure,
mm-hmm.
and it isn't addressed and whatnot. I don't know if you.
That's more addressed under our letter of credits that we have, that each developer has to provide for us.
Okay,
They give us a letter of credit covering the improvements, and we hold that until we accept them, and then we reduce it, and then we have a warranty period on it also.
right.
And keep it for another 18 months for the warranty period.
But by the time you have to go and get that letter of credit, you've got the damage that's out before you. And that's why we ended up, we ran into that
We
problem.
make them give us a letter of credit before we allow them to,
No, but for you to claim the letter of
Oh.
credit, to get the liquid dollar, it's gonna be a lot longer than it is to take care of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why, you're not worried about that, because you got that handled.
yes, that's
Okay.
just the process we've always done.
Okay.
Any other questions for the staff? There's no petition there, so I think we're done.
Impacted parties, cross-examination,
Public.
public comment.
Public comments.
No public comment. Petition, no response there. Any discussions from us as commissioners? Anybody?
I think we're ready to.
No discussion from us. So we will close the public hearing now.
A motion.
A motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make it.
I'll second.
So vote on closing that hearing. Mayor Hart,
Yes.
myself, yes. John Gudendorf,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Duke.
Yes.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. Now come up for a vote. We need to put this into a, let me find it.
Would you like me to read a motion?
Keep going.
Nope. Right for that.
Under the proposal is kind of the language you're looking for, John.
Yeah, so there you go. There it is. Okay, the village is proposing to amend section 12-4-5-4, agreement and performance guarantee, and section 12-10-17, snowplowing agreement as presented in Exhibit A.
I make that motion.
Make a motion to to approve this.
I'll second.
We're voting on this then. Bob Earhart,
Yes.
John Beers, yes. John Goodcar,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Dubina.
Yes.
Motion carries. This proposal is approved. Moving on to the next order of business, which is, hearing number 26-003, the final PUD for Phil Kuhn for 391 Capitol Drive, duplex, proposed duplex on that property. If we've been, notification's all been sent out?
This was not a public hearing, so it didn't
Okay.
require it.
Okay.
So a little bit of background, subject property is 391 Capitol Drive as mentioned. It's currently a vacant lot located on the northeast corner of List Road and Capitol Drive. Property is zoned R3 medium density residential. It's part of the Waterford Place PUD, which was approved in 2000. The PUD originally designated the use of the property as a medical office building. However, ordinance 2024-0507 CD2 amended the original PUD to change the designated use of the property to an attached single-family duplex. That ordinance also approved the preliminary PUD for the duplex, and the applicant is now requesting the final PUD approval. The applicant has not made any significant changes to the site layout for the project. One thing worth noting is, so the driveway entrance will utilize the existing curb width that's there, which is 21.17 feet. It's 1.17 feet wider than the maximum allowed driveway width at the front lot line for village code. However, this is an existing condition. We reviewed this, the engineers reviewed this, and deviation is not required. The driveway will be constructed with permeable pavers. The village engineers are reviewing this. They do deem the idea acceptable so long as they approve the maintenance plan, the long-term maintenance plan for the permeable pavers. The architectural elevations are consistent with the architectural elevations that were approved with the preliminary PUD. The applicant is requesting one deviation, which is to reduce the required rear yard setback from 30 feet to 15 feet. Staff has reviewed the plans. We can confirm that the final PUD is consistent with the approved preliminary PUD. Staff also does deem the zoning deviation request to reduce the rear yard setback acceptable. And with that, there was one original condition in the preliminary PUD ordinance, which is number 2 here. It's brick used on the structure columns on each side of the garages, and the base must be 4-inch real brick. And then there's 2 additional conditions that we're adding, which is that the village engineers shall approve the final engineering plans prior to the village board voting on the case, and that the long-term maintenance plan that was mentioned for the permeable pavers must be approved by the village engineers prior to the village board voting on the case. So with that, staff does recommend approval to the village board for petition 26003 for a final PUD for 391 Capitol Drive.
I'm the owner, I just here to answer any questions you have.
Why do you need the deviation from 30 to 15?
I think it was to get the building back far enough so that the driveway could sweep in better.
So it was more of a village concern than it was your concern? to get
I
that
think it was
out
how
there?
the engineer drew it up. Probably, otherwise the driveway might have been too steep also.
Yeah, was that a grading concern with the
I
driveway?
think so, yeah.
What provisions are you making? High point of your lots, I think it's 707 or 708, and finished floor is gonna be right around that height. When your neighbors to Waterford are at 703, right at the driveway. It's a slope. How are you
Okay.
gonna control the flow? Are you gonna put a berm there, gonna put a swale there?
There's probably maybe a swale on the, is there a grading plan? Did the engineer draw up a grading plan too in there? There's an awful lot of land to the, I guess it would be the south.
Waterford place there.
Yeah.
Southeast.
Yeah, for drainage there.
Okay, and because it's steeper to the north, to where the greyhounds are. It seems to me.
Okay, yeah, I think the rear elevation is pretty high already on my lot. I don't know what theirs looks like back there.
Okay, all right. I'm more concerned with mud running into the driveway of Waterford Place. Because you'll end up with a silt fence anyway during construction.
Right.
Okay.
And there's quite a bit of trees, there's a whole tree line in there too.
How
Before
far off
that
the tree
driveway.
line is your property line?
Can't be much.
No, it's, looks like those trees are all in that easement. I don't know, there could be a good 20, 25 feet in there.
Okay. All right.
And what's the reason for the permeable pavers? Is that a stormwater condition?
Yeah, they did away with a buried retention area, and the engineer just felt that the maintenance on that would have exceeded the maintenance on the permeable pavers. Plus, it had to have a separate, because it's a duplex, that area had to be a separate deeded area or something, had to be a separate parcel.
Is the telephone pole there at Bliss and Capitol outside your property?
I really don't know, right there on the corner?
Yes.
Yeah, I am not sure.
Because sometimes the way the snow is plowed there, you cannot see up Bliss Road to the north when you're pulling out on the Bliss. Because
Okay.
the way they push the snow, because Bliss falls off
Mhm.
from your corner.
Mhm.
So it gets really hard to see, and sidelines were something I was concerned about.
Okay, well, that area right there is not gonna change.
Because the county doesn't mow a lot of the time in the summertime and the winds get high
Right.
also. But, you know,
Are there any plans with the village to bring a sidewalk along the eastern edge of Bliss going down that way in the future?
Maybe a long term, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the plan is there.
So would there be a reason to get a sidewalk bond for the property for future? A sidewalk now wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I can look into that further if you guys would like me to.
We did that for, the parcels over on 47.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, we
shows the
could-
sidewalk already in it.
No,
and
going.
not on their side.
No, they are not going to do that. That's why they're trying to prohibit, that going down. The county doesn't want,
They don't want- they don't want
that's
water
why
to
they,
do it.
that's why they put the bridge in going through the subdivision to get to the forest.
So there's no plans for a sidewalk going down?
No.
Okay, okay,
Because they were having people go down, they gave the shoulder,
right.
and, they didn't like that with all the young kids and that.
Okay. That's fine.
Man, that's a small one.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous with the rear setback. I mean, is this a rental? Are you gonna rent these?
No, it would be-
For sale?
It would be for sale for, the original plan was to build it for both my kids,
Mm-hmm.
but that may change. And maybe it'll just be one of them and we'll sell the other one off, or they'll both be sold to them, but
Okay.
be sold to two individual buyers.
Okay. So on the rear yard, we've got 15 foot there, so doing any kind of a patio in the back, though patio is allowable, but there's no way they can do any kind of a screen porch or anything back there, because there's no way to do that. So just so that you understand that there's no improvement that's allowed behind there other than a.
There's quite a bit of side yard too,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
the backyard isn't a,
Yeah. That's all the questions I have. Gary, any questions? Any impacted party questions?
This isn't a public hearing, so we don't need to go through that list.
Okay. Oh, good, okay. All right. So from there.
Just get a motion.
So if there's no more questions, or comments, I'm looking for a motion for staff recommendation, and plan commission recommendation for approval to the village board for petition 26-003 for final PUD for 391 Capitol Drive, subject to the following conditions. That the village engineers shall approve the final engineering plans prior to the village board voting on the case. Number 2, brick used on the structure columns on each side of the garages and the base must be 4-inch real brick. And number 3, a long-term maintenance plan for the permeable paver driveways must be submitted and approved by the village engineers prior to the village board voting on the case.
And adopt the findings of fact.
And adopted by,
Adopt the
Adopting the-
findings of fact.
and adopting finding of facts. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Bob seconds that. We'll take a vote. Bob Earhart,
Yes.
Jonathan Beards, yes. John Gudendorf,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Davina.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. So, all approved. Does it with that. Any old business? Any commissioner comments and miscellaneous information?
Anything new?
Nothing on our end.
Nothing coming?
Houses.
Houses, that's good. Houses is good.
If you can afford it.
Any public comment?
You should.
All right, I move for adjournment.
I make that motion.
Second.
Do we have to vote on that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, voting on adjournment, Bob Earhart,
Yes.
John Beards, yes. John Gudendorf,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Davina.
Yes.
We are adjourned.